was like a pretty big kid. And I would just stand in my room and just go like, go Clovers, go Toros. And I would just do this with my head. I was just on a solo trip. I stayed in the middle of nowhere and I literally almost died multiple times. But one of the instances was I actually was driving down a gravel road and my car completely swerved and I lost control and the car literally was going like this and we were on like a cliff. Every time it was Father's Day, my dad was not around and you know, it really made me feel like I was not worth anything, and I really had to work through that in the years when I became aware of what was actually happening internally and how it was affecting me externally. Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Nicole, a life and business coach for high-functioning women. I'm a self-proclaimed foodie, content creator, educator, and your new abundance bestie. In my world, we talk about all things to do with elevating your life. I post weekly videos helping the everyday woman embody her highest self, create inner wealth, master her mindset, unlock her femininity, and be an absolute boss in life. I create resources, trainings, and host experiences online and in person in order to help you reconnect to your true self. Not the one you think you need to be, but the you that you were born to be. So you can reclaim your power and amplify your voice to lead, love, and create as a woman. If you like my vibe and you want a little bit more abundance in your life, hit subscribe to be notified whenever I drop a new episode. And be sure to check out the free resources in the description below. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Nicole and today we are doing a fun little challenge answering 20 random questions. Now I have not actually looked at any of these questions, so we're just gonna answer them on the fly and see what comes up. I feel like I do a lot of talking on this channel, but not a lot of it is about myself or the things that, I don't know, random things about me. And I feel like you guys should get to know me on a deeper level. So stay tuned if you want to know some really interesting and random stuff about me, or if my personality interests you, and enjoy. What is your favorite childhood memory? I have to say, it wouldn't be a specific memory per se, but I think it was those moments where I was just dancing and like pretending like I was a cheerleader. So I used to love the Bring It On series, you know, go Toros, go Clovers. Like I was all about the dance movies, whether it was cheerleading or Stomp the Yard. And so I remember during school holidays, I loved watching the Bring It On series and afterwards pretending like I was a cheerleader. So I would literally be in my room and I couldn't do any somersaults, clearly. I was like a pretty big kid. And I would just stand in my room and just go like, go Clovers, go Toros. And I would just do this with my head. And I would pretend that I was a cheerleader and I would visualize myself doing stunts, even though I was just standing like with my feet flat on the ground. I actually remember there was a movie called Stick It where it was a gymnastics movie. I did the exact same thing. I remember pretending to actually be a gymnast and just like doing this. And like, that was what they did in the movie. If you know, you know. So that was one of my favorite memories, I think, because I was quite expressive in my, I loved dancing and I loved just being able to move my body despite being quite big as a child. I really loved the whole just grooving and seeing people dance. So I wanted to kind of mirror that. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why? If I could have dinner with any historical figure, I would have to say Walt Disney. I don't know about you guys, but I recently watched the Imagineering series on Disney Plus and it just blew my mind. I always knew Walt Disney was a genius because obviously he's created so much amazing stuff in this world and it has like left impact on so many people's lives. But you guys, I've learned so much about the way this man thinks that is so unconventional. And he's like so witty and he'll answer questions that people ask him with humor. And it's not just any kind of humor. It was like intelligent, out of the box thinking, and he always spoke in like these mysterious, cryptic statements that people were just like, that's just Walt. And I feel like I really resonate with Walt Disney in the way that I see life. I love just making everything an adventure. I love storytelling and experience. I love immersing people and capturing the essence of something and bringing it to people in its fullness. And I would just love to pick his brain. I would love to see life the way that he saw it. And I just think, yeah, he's made a massive legacy. And if you watch the documentary, you'll know that he actually obviously didn't get to see a lot of the fruition of his work. And at the time, he was viewed as crazy, irrational, completely out of the box outsider because of the way he thought. And Disney and his concept of theme parks was also really foreign. It was something that was not socially accepted at the time, especially selling happiness, capitalizing on people's joy. Like, people really wanted to tear that concept down, and yet look at the impact of Disney everywhere, not just theme parks, but just in people's lives, in just the way that they're able to experience childlike joy. And I think that's really all it is for me. I love when I can get around people who are childlike in nature and can really just pursue their passion relentlessly without caring, no matter how many people tear it down or say like, it's stupid or that's not gonna profit. They just go for it. Those are my kind of people. So Walt Disney, if it were possible, I'm gonna have dinner with you. What is the most adventurous thing you've ever done? I have to say, I think traveling solo. I know it's pretty broad, but I think all of my travel experiences, whether it was in high school being hosted by a Japanese family and traveling solo at such a young age, or going to New Zealand and backpacking, or going to Southeast Asia for 3 whole months without a plan and with no consistent income, I think all of my solo travel experiences sum up the most adventurous things that I've ever done, because inside of those decisions were micro decisions where on that trip I because it was like kind of this free-spirited decision, I would go on that trip and say yes to really fun random stuff. Like if somebody invited me over to dinner, or if somebody said, come meet my family, and they were like complete stranger, or I would just meet someone and make plans with them. It just led to the most amazing connections. And as it always does with travel, I think that's where you sort of find yourself in places you never otherwise could have planned or intended. And that's really what my whole surrender experiment movement and mission is about. So if you want to check out more about the surrender experiment, definitely check out my blog and the website for the experience that I host for people around this kind of surrender, free-spirited, allowing the flow to flow, and check that out. I guess if I were to share a story around the most adventurous thing, I don't know, like I remember going to Tasmania and having a solo trip. I'd never been there. I was just on a solo trip. I stayed in the middle of nowhere and I literally almost died multiple times. But one of the instances was I actually was driving down a gravel road and my car completely swerved and I lost control, and the car literally was going like this and we were on like a cliff. So I almost died, but luckily it wasn't my time yet and fate intervened, and somehow I think some emergency braking system kicked into gear and stopped the car. I didn't even know that was a thing, but I'm so glad it exists. But yeah, I have to say that was probably one of my crazier experiences. I have stories of making friends with locals and kind of following down the rabbit hole, going where they go and being able to just eat what they eat and meet their families and all the things. I wouldn't say that's adventurous, but I feel like it's, at the time, it's super adventurous, just not knowing, not having a plan and just going. But yeah, I would say most of my travel experiences are. What is my go-to comfort food? I have so many. Food is my love language, you guys. I eat. I can eat. A girl can eat. But if I had to choose one for right now, one of my favorite things is vanilla ice cream, like plain vanilla ice cream with Milo powder, particularly the protein Milo, which is quite new actually. It's so yummy, it's so crunchy, and you guys, I literally load so much Milo on top, it's ridiculous. It's like a mountain of Milo. I just love the texture, and I love when like you just like let it dissolve in your mouth. So that's been my guilty pleasure, and that gives me comfort all the time. What is my biggest pet peeve? I think my biggest pet peeve would have to be someone who always complains, like a Debbie Downer situation. Someone who like doesn't want to be helped and yet complains like crazy, like vents to you like crazy. I don't have anyone in my world that is particularly like this or close to me who's like this, but I have to say when I am around people who are like that, it drains me so much, and I absolutely hate when they're like complaining and you're offering your thoughts, or even just, I'm not even offering advice, I'm just holding space and they just want to stay in that complaining state. Like there's no intention to move outside of that state. That is a pet peeve of mine. Like if we're talking like pet peeve, like habits wise, I wouldn't say I'm a clean freak. I wouldn't say I need you to be extremely tidy or to clean up after yourself. Like, I think there's like some things like common sense where like if you're doing something disgusting, like you're cutting your toenails where people eat, no, like absolutely not. Disgusting. So that would be one. But maybe like something like if you spilt food on the floor and you didn't clean it up, like you just left it there, that's kind of nasty. I wouldn't tolerate that. When was the last time you did something for the first time? You guys, I've been doing so much of this. I have been on this whole track lately of being a beginner again at a lot of things that I kind of either decided that I was not good at somewhere along the way, or have fallen out of maybe of things that I know I love, but I've never allowed myself to pursue. Again, because of self-judgments and all these things. But I, like the last few things that I've tried that was the first time was badminton, which you guys know on my Instagram community. I love badminton now. I'm just obsessed with it. I have a community for badminton. It's a vibe. Dancing, particularly like Afro and dancehall dancing. I am about to try floor work and chair work classes, which I'm freaking terrified of. But that's something that I'm going to do for the first time. I think this week actually, so stay tuned on my socials. And like being nomadic, that's something that's quite recent as well that I tried for the first time. I've been doing a lot of things for the first time, which is so different to who I was 6 months ago. I was very comfortable in her identity and also comfortable in just the things that I said yes and no to, which I actually really love that. If you could have any superpower, what would it be and how would you use it? I would love to be invisible. I don't know, you guys. Like being invisible is just like so cool because you could just go into anybody's room and just like see what their life is like. Low-key creepy, but I'm gonna be honest here. I love looking at like large luxury homes, which is why I love watching like real estate shows on Netflix, like Selling Sunset, because I just love admiring like luxury homes and also wondering like how people live their lives inside their homes. So sometimes when I'm walking in a neighborhood where there's like really beautiful large homes, I just like stand there and I just like look at their house and I go, I wonder what's in that room. I wonder how far that room goes back. I wonder if they've got a games room or a cinema room. I wonder if they've got a pool in their backyard. Like I love that. And I used to, as a kid, I used to go to like those real estate stores and look at like the houses and just point to them and be like, I want to go to that one. I want to see that one. I want to see that one. It was just something I love to do. And so if I was invisible, I'd literally go to like luxury homes and just like observe people's lives and marvel at the decoration and just the way that the homes are built. I don't know, don't ask me, but that's what I would use it for. I mean, of course, I'd probably do other random stuff. Like if I was invisible, I'd probably just like go to places and eat lots of food and then go to countries and go undetected without having to pay a single dollar. Okay. What is a skill you've always wanted to learn but haven't had the chance to yet? Honestly, what I want to learn is how to balance on top of my head. Like I've been into yoga recently, which is also something new that I've been doing. And being around yogis who are really experienced and know how to like they can balance with their eyes closed, they can meditate on their head, they can just like do all these cool things where they're like lifting themselves up from the floor. Like I don't have the bodily strength, let alone just haven't had the skill or the training around how to do these things. So I feel like that's something that I really, really want to learn. The other thing that I want to learn, honestly, is another language. Like I have learned Japanese. I studied it for 6 years in high school, but I kind of forgot all of it. I've retained like 2% maximum of what I learned. So I feel like I want to master another language, and I would love to master Japanese or Bahasa Indonesian, because I tend to kind of go back and forth to Bali, at least at this point in my life, because a lot of my friends are there and a lot of my self-exploration journey and spiritual journey has been happening in Bali. So I would love to kind of master those two languages. What book, movie, or TV show has had the biggest impact on your life? Wow, that is a big question. Oh my gosh. I don't know, like, look, I have to say book is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that book, I mean, so many people have referenced it, but it truly has changed my perception of time. It has allowed me to feel so detached from my circumstances, and it has helped me to really understand like why I tend to worry and stress so much about little things. It's such a great book. I highly recommend it. That book has changed my life and I would highly recommend it. Another book is The Secret. If you are new to the entire concept of visualization, manifestation, abundance, like The Secret is a great starting point. And there's also a film or a documentary version. It's quite old, quite a hard thing to watch if you're really picky on visuals and how modern something looks. But it is a profound, profound book slash documentary. And I highly recommend you check that out because that really changed my life. It was really the beginning of my entire spiritual soul seeking journey, and my like wellness journey has also coincided with having found that book. So highly, highly recommend. Movies, DVDs, like shows. I wouldn't say anything has profoundly changed my life. Like I love to watch Friends. I love to watch Modern Family. I like watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like just like funny, lighthearted stuff, but I wouldn't say they've like profoundly changed my life. If you could switch lives with someone for a day, who would it be and why? If I could switch lives with a person for a day, it would be Oprah. Hands down. I've been like low-key obsessed with Oprah lately because of, it started down a rabbit hole of listening to her podcast, and then my friend gave me a few of her books, and I've just been on this rabbit hole, and I'm like, Oprah is my spirit animal. She's like my spirit sister. We are connected. I feel like I resonate with her so much. Everything that she talks about, everything that she says, the way she sees life, even just the concept of her podcast, how all she does is like hold space for people of spiritual nature or have a spiritual perspective. And then people who are wise, people who are at the top of their game. Like I just love everything she stands for. So if I could trade lives with anyone, it would be her. And also because I know she loves nature and plants. And so her house would be stunning. And I know that she's got a garden and she just does really like earthy stuff. So I would love to like, you know, be in her shoes for a little bit and to also be on a talk show. What is the most challenging thing you've overcome? It's gonna get really deep, really quick, but I would have to say the most challenging thing I've overcome would be my childhood and upbringing. I grew up in a broken home and my family split when I was in high school, and I had to kind of navigate my young adulthood and teenhood with a broken home, kind of moving from place to place, sleeping on people's couches, avoiding being at home, and not really having a close relationship with my parents, either of them, and also my siblings because of that broken home situation. I feel like I have never really, you know, shared this with you guys on YouTube, but do let me know if you have questions and if you're somebody who's gone through something like this, and maybe I can share my story to help you work through it. But I really like took a lot of years, maybe like 4 to 5 years of doing some deep internal healing around that season of my life. And I feel like a lot of my wounds, my emotional wounds, like they come from that period of my life. So that would have to be the most challenging because I really did feel alone. I had, you know, I felt quite lonely. I felt quite isolated. I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. And I kept myself extremely busy. And so being busy and overproductive was kind of my coping mechanism during that time. And I see now when I'm unlearning doing all of those things and learning to really relax into my abundance, that, you know, those are just ways that I learned to survive in the world, especially having to kind of grow up young when your family splits and you have to take care of younger siblings and things go to crap in your life. It kind of forces you to grow up quickly. And for me, that was such a hard chapter of life. And I remember being young and feeling like I wasn't loved. I felt like every time it was Father's Day, my dad was not around, and you know, it really made me feel like I was not worth anything. And I really had to work through that in the years when I became aware of what was actually happening internally and how it was affecting me externally. So again, I can talk more about this and this topic in another video. So let me know in the comments below if you are someone who resonates with that topic and would love for me to share some of my experiences and some of the ways that I helped myself move through that. Because by the way, I never saw any therapists, I never saw any counselors, psychologists, nothing, never sought any medical professional help. It was all really internal seeking. And I'm blessed that I've always kind of been self-aware and very grounded and have been able to lead myself through hard things in life. And so a lot of it was really self-led and introspective. So I'd love to share my tips and thoughts with you guys. If you are interested, leave a comment below. If you could time travel, would you go to the past or the future, and what era would you visit? Oh, I would visit the younger me. First of all, I was quite a cute kid. Like, I was a chubby kid, and I would have loved to observe myself, like, just being me. And the reason for that is, this is gonna get really deep as well, is because I feel like it's so helpful for all of us to know what our authentic, fully expressive, embodied, childlike self looked like. Because everything else, all the trauma, all the wounding, all the stuff that we've kind of taken on through fear, conditioning, programming, other people's projections, is not really us. We've just learned to behave like that version of ourselves. But there was once a time where I believe that we were all free, uninhibited. We would dance like no one's watching, sing like nobody's listening, and just be so free-spirited. And I feel like I just want to see myself at that period of life where I was just like free, you know? And I would love to understand some of my qualities as well. I mean, I've heard that I was quite curious as a child, although I was very quiet as well. I also heard that my grandfather and my grandmother were healers, like they were the village healers, and that's part of my lineage. I don't know much, but I would love to go back in time to see what they were doing and how I interacted with them, because apparently I used to like hang out with my grandfather a lot, and I didn't know all of this until I saw the Balinese healer who told me in order to discover my purpose, I needed to connect with my ancestors. And then that led me down the rabbit hole of finding out that they were healers. So I was just like, wow, like I want to see this dynamic. And apparently my grandfather would always talk to me and random. I've had visualizations and in my meditations before where like my grandfather was holding me on his lap and talking to me, and I couldn't decipher what he was saying to me, but I knew that to some degree my grandfather saw that he wanted to pass down his legacy through me. And now only in my mid-20s I'm uncovering what that is. So super freaky, but super aligned as well. It's the journey I'm on. But yeah, I would love to like visit myself in that time. I definitely wouldn't go to the future because I feel like that just kind of gets in your head when you can see your future, you know? What's a hobby or activity you enjoy that not many people know about? Wow, not many people know about. I share everything. I'm like a chronic oversharer on Instagram. But I don't know, you guys know everything about me on Instagram. I mean, absolute crickets. Like, I feel like random hobbies or activities for me, like I share everything. I love to go on walks. I love to be on my own. I can be alone for like weeks and not have a problem with it. I love spending time on my own. I guess that's kind of interesting. Like not many people like to spend time on their own, but I really could. I could entertain myself for hours and days. And I love to spend time on my own. I love being out in nature. I love just hanging out with people as well. I love reading. Yeah, nothing crazy. Like people know that I rollerblade. I guess I loved rollerblading growing up and I've recently picked it up again. So yeah, but you guys know that. I really don't know. I don't have an answer for that. What is a hobby or activity? Yeah. Next question then. If you could have any job in the world for 1 week, what would it be? I would love to be a PR manager or someone who works with brands, influencers to do like content shoots, to like have meetings with clients and like all of like the PR stuff, or like having launch parties for things. Like I would love that. The other thing I would love is if I was like an assistant for Kim Kardashian or something. Like low-key have been enjoying watching Kardashians on the new Disney Plus like show that they have, which is like the next era of their Keeping Up with the Kardashians, just rebranded. I just love it. I love the house. I love their houses. I love their lifestyles. I love that they're successful women, that they have families, and that they're just like fully glam. Like I want that. I want to be around that. So I would love to kind of work with them in their team somehow or work with their like marketing or their brands or something like that. Oh, actually, I have another answer to that. In another life, I would say another job that I would love to have is to just be like a simple island girl who like just bartends and makes drinks for people and dances and like plays with fire and just like is in the elements. She goes for a swim. Like, I don't know if that's classified as a job, but I would just like see myself, the island version of me. Maybe it's like in another life, but really like that feels so right for me. So I would love to try that out. What's your favorite way to relax and unwind? Honestly, so many things help me get relaxed, and you know, I can list so many things, but I would have to say one of my favorite things is like just being in a natural environment, whether it's like at a lookout or in the midst of a forest or overlooking a beach. Like I love sunrise and sunset as well. So for me, I love like sitting there and just taking slow, deep breaths and like doing that soft monk Buddhist smile. And I just love like smelling the elements, feeling the elements on me. That is like one of my favorite ways to unwind. And that's why like I always go on morning walks, midday walks where possible, sunset walks, like, and it's always in nature. And I could sit in nature for hours and not have a single problem, not be bored, nothing. So I definitely would say that's a way that I love to unwind and relax. I also feel like reading a book is a great way for me to unwind. Taking a shower and doing skincare, like something to do with my skin, but doing it in a really mindful way. So like when I feel my hands on my face, like really feeling my hands on my face and like moving slowly. Like if you've never tried that, you need to. And I would say like doing that followed by reading a book and like lighting a candle and like just like letting my body sink into my bed. Really, really powerful way for me to relax. Oh, and also like not being at home. Like if I stay at an Airbnb or a hotel, like that's a really great way for me to relax because I don't have the visual triggers that I'm used to. So I love booking like staycations as well. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? This is a big question. I have so many. I mean, I have to say like one of the coaching sessions that I've had that have really helped me with whether it was my business mentors or coaching through personal development seminars and things that I've done, I would have to say is it's the lesson that nothing is an emergency. I feel like really understanding that I'm going to be okay, then no matter what, I'm going to be exactly where I need to be. I have everything I need. I'm going to be taken care of. Like this lesson of nothing is an emergency has helped me so much to slow down, to not be so anxious all the time, and to not try to push things that are just not happening in their own time. That has really changed my life. What is your biggest fear? Big question. I don't know. My biggest fear, I wouldn't say I have like a main fear. Like it's not my biggest fear, but I really do not like snakes and lizards. They're just nasty. Like I literally feel the hair on my skin go up because I don't know, like reptiles just gross me out. I can tolerate them. I mean, I've held a snake before. I've been close to lizards, but like if I see one, I'm running the other way. I just can't. I can't. They're so gross. So it's not a fear, but I guess it's a phobia, like something I don't like. I don't really fear death necessarily. I don't know, but I feel like violence I don't like as well. I mean, who does? But when I have like scary dreams that like feel like nightmares, it's usually like violence or torture. So I don't like any kind of movies or shows where there's just extreme violence or torture being inflicted on like another human being. So I have to say that's something that maybe I'm afraid of. Like if I was ever held captive, tortured, really morbid, but yeah, I wouldn't say like I'm afraid of heights or the dark or anything like that, or even death. I don't fear death at all. What's a goal or dream you have for the next 5 years? So I would be 31 in the next 5 years. My goal and dream is really to be fully nomadic. I want to have a chapter of life where I literally have no belongings other than what's on my back. And I am living remotely, working remotely, and just having incredible experiences all around the world. And I feel like that's already about to happen, so very exciting. Stay tuned on the journey on the surrender experiment, of course. But I'm like kind of teetering into it. I've given myself the 3-month period to try it out, and I did this year, and I'm gonna do it again this coming year, hopefully more often. Little by little, I'm gonna start like randomly selling my stuff and then be like, I don't have any more stuff. I'm officially gonna be nomadic. I don't know. I don't have a plan, but that's like something I really want to do. I would say as well, I would love to start a business where it is like kind of like a workspace where people can flow and work and collaborate, and sort of like a shared, what do you call them? A co-working space, which also has like a gym, a pool, like everything that like incites flow. I want to be able to create that, and potentially a retreat space. Like I would love to have a resort/retreat space that I run. Location, I'm not really fussed at all. So that's a dream of mine as well. Oh, this is the second last question. If you could change one thing about the world, what would it be and why? Honestly, it would be that people do not go hungry. I think I love food so much, and I have the privilege of being able to have access to such amazing food and to be living in the Western world in a country that's developed. And I have been to countries where there are no privileges for people who don't have money. And I have come from that as well. I see my relatives every time I go back home to Philippines, and whenever I'm traveling in third world countries, like the gap between people going hungry and starving to people who are obese and overeating is just so huge. And we have billions of dollars going into things like marketing, media, politics, war, and nothing being done, hardly anything being done to serve humanity and people being able to just have access to basic things like food and water. And I think that like food really resonates. It strikes a chord with me because like food is an equalizer. We all need food. Doesn't matter what color your skin is, how old you are, like we all need food. And so the fact that somebody's going hungry today and we have so much food, we have an obesity like epidemic everywhere in the Western countries, in the modern world, like it just, the disparity is like too big, and it just doesn't make sense. So I would definitely change that. I would also change how modern society emphasizes like overproducing, and how we are highly conditioned to be constantly switched on. I think that it's great to have the access to the things that we do, like technology, social media, and advancements, you know, that we have. But I feel like if I could go back in time and introduce this whole modernity and progressive way of living, if I could introduce it in a new way, I would, and I would roll it out. I would emphasize mindfulness. I would emphasize like being aware. I would emphasize gratitude, like kind of the things that we don't learn that keep us sufficient, so that we stop depending our validation and our worth and our success and happiness on having more stuff or having titles and all these things that we think achieve us happiness and peace and joy. And I think that it's a lesson that we all kind of come to learn at some way, shape, or form, especially in the modern world. But it's lessons that are for like people who are less fortunate or don't have so much that they have deeply practiced and have been brought up in. A lot of Eastern traditions, particularly like, you know, religious practices, spiritual practices like yoga, like Buddhism, like monks, Zen, like all these kind of Eastern or Oriental practices, they're really emphasized on like having less, being mindful, being still, being slow. And even in the modern world, these deep-rooted perspectives or traditions kind of infuse their way of operating. accumulating, I feel so much more sustainable. Whereas like in the West, sometimes we just try to do too much because we have no groundedness, we have no connectedness to our spirit. And so we have things like therapy, psychology, counselors to help us like work through things. But we also have a medical and pharmaceutical industry that is also here just to band-aid fix something that we're feeling, and kind of is almost designed to keep us coming back to the pharmaceuticals, to depending on other people, instead of learning to look inward and feel our emotions and self-regulate, which is what a lot of like Eastern Oriental traditions do. So I feel like I would love to kind of help everyone be able to experience life that way. And it all kind of starts with history and how it was all introduced to us and the values placed on society based on, you know, how we were colonized. So the last question is, what is in my bag? So I actually have my bag here. So this is just a tote bag that I chucked all my stuff in. Luckily, I actually have my tote bag here because I just finished unpacking my suitcase from my trip. I just came back from a week in Bali, and I just chucked all my stuff from my backpack to this tote bag so I could bring it with me. But usually I actually have a small purse. Okay, so in my bag, here are some of the essentials that I carry with me. First of all, keys, but they're not in here. Oh, they're right here. They're not in my bag physically, but these are my keys. Let me show you what's on them. This is a chain which my high school friend... If you want to take your abundance to another level, I want to help you. I'm a life and business coach for women who want to step into their next level by activating wealth from the inside out. To help you take your first step to unlocking true abundance and your aligned potential, I'm giving you free resources, workshops, and masterclasses that you can access on demand right now. Check out www.nicoleconcepcion.co/free-resources to get your hands on it. For more videos like this, check out the other playlists and series I have on this channel, and don't forget to hit subscribe to be notified whenever I drop a new video. And if you're more of the podcast type, check out Freedom in Flow, where I dive even deeper into the concepts that will help you create less hustle and more flow, abundance, and alignment in your life and business. Now, if you're a reader, you'll want to subscribe to my email list for unfiltered, honest, and most importantly, applicable life upgrades. Now, don't be a stranger. Connect with me on Instagram and TikTok and send me a message. I love getting to know you and your story. It's why I do this. Okay, my lovely, that's all for now. I'll see you soon. Signing off, Nicole.